Hello class, welcome to our introductory lesson in dealing with section 1.1 for probability and statistics. What you'll notice about this class, there's going to be a lot of different information and new information compared to any other math class you've probably taken. Everyone's basically on an equal playing field because everything's basically brand new. We're going to be doing a lot of statistical measurements and then also some probability sections as we go through the chapters. There's going to be a lot of terms, a lot of definitions, a lot of equations. You're going to make sure your information is organized. And much like a lot of math classes, everything's going to build upon itself. So if you struggle with what the terminology is early in the semester, I think it's going to be a much bigger issue as we move through the semester. You're also going to have real-world application pieces dealing with things like insurance or medical pieces. How someone deals with if a treatment is okay or not, if we can send the treatment out to the public, things like that as we look through these lessons. But I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure you get the terminology down. What you're going to notice early on in the semester, especially in chapter 1, there's not a whole lot of mathematical number crunching or even formulas. It's just principles and definitions and ideas that we're going to be looking at. So those are some things to think about as we go through these lessons. Okay, the first piece that we're starting at is just dealing with what is statistics and how do we look at it. So data, first off, is a collection of observations. Okay, so we won't necessarily be collecting the data, but we'll be looking at data collection during the course. And it's just a collection of something that you get. Okay, measurements or any type of survey that's sent out, any of those things, those are collections of data. So think of that as if you've ever had to do a survey and at the end they ask you for some info about yourself, ethnicity, race, gender, things like that. Those questions are typically collected for data purposes. Once the data is collected, then statistics is the science and looking at experiments and obtaining the data and organizing it and interpreting and figuring out ways to explain it to the general public. Okay, so statistics is its own major. There's lots of different versions of statistics. And then the goal is to take all of that information, run some type of test or experiment on the information or data, and then come up with a conclusion based upon it. So that's what we're going to be looking at throughout the semester. Okay, a population is a group of individuals that are being studied. The collection of all of those individuals, if you're able to get information on all the population, would be what's known as a census. So a census, think about like the U.S. Census taken every 10 years. The goal for that situation is to collect information about all of America at that point, all the citizens. But if you can't collect data on everyone, so we don't do a census every year, we do it every 10 years, then what you're looking at is what's known as a sample. Most data collection is a sample because it's hard to get a census of information. So sample is a subset or a smaller collection of the population. So you can imagine it's pretty hard to get a census unless it's something like the population of students in my class. I can ask everyone in the class a question because you're in my class, but that can be more challenging if it's not. So that's some differences that you'll want to look at when it comes to the idea of a census versus a sample. Okay, so for example, West Lafayette poll sent out to all alumni asking for their college and career choices, but you got 1,500 responses back. The population originally is not like all people in America or all the people in the world or all the people in the city. Okay, it's only West Lafayette alumni because the poll was only asking about West Lafayette alumni. Okay, so for example, I'm not a West Lafayette alumni, so I wouldn't have been asked the question, but it doesn't matter because I'm not part of the population. The sample, though, is the 1,500 responses that you got returned. Now, the goal then is to kind of infer and see based statistically on what type of conclusion we can make based upon those 1,500 responses. Okay, the next thing to talk about is random data collection. Okay, all data collection must be done appropriately. Okay, and typically that's done through random selection. If it's found out that it's not done by random selection, it doesn't matter what your conclusion is, it's really an invalid conclusion. Okay, so when you're collecting data, you want to do that randomly as much as possible. Now, that can be done in a lot of different ways. Nowadays, typically it's just assign everyone a computer number and then randomly pick one so that there's no bias in terms of how we're picking it, but you still want to make sure that it's random if possible. Okay, so to recap, statistics and probability will be a lot of terms to start out with. You're going to want to make sure you have a scientific calculator. If you don't have one, you need to probably find one because you're going to be looking at some things, especially when we get to probability, that is going to be important to make sure you know how to use a scientific calculator to find the answer. You're also going to have to get everything organized on Math Excel for school. I'll be sending out some codes for everyone to make sure they're enrolled in the correct course. What you want to look at is make sure that you can access the main page. I'll put up a homework. It should be up there today so that you can get started on that as well. Again, the homework pieces probably early on are going to be fairly straightforward and won't be as time consuming, but as the semester progresses, I think you're going to need more time in order to get things figured out and get things organized. So you want to make sure that you're able to do that as we keep moving forward during the rest of the semester. Have a good day, everyone.